This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
Oh, where was I? What'd I miss? Anything going on? It's been a few weeks. As I've explained a few times on Twitter, there was a little contract dispute, and sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but it's all been worked out. Yes, they met my demand. I had one big demand. I just wanted to make more money than Ironhead. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think I accomplished that. I think I won. So we are back, and we will be here for a while. The deal is done. It was not easy. I have to say, every day I woke up, and the news was just exploding. Good news almost every day. Great news. Just a wonderful time to be alive and to be doing this job and to be watching the news and reacting to the news. And I think it reached a boiling point on Friday when Zelenskyy, the little tyrant, showed up in the Oval Office in his usual attire, sat down with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and a bunch of others, and had a nice 40 minutes of talk, and everyone was getting along, and they were heading in the right direction, and a peace deal was imminent. And then the little strong man blew the whole thing up. And as I was watching, I was thinking, this is perfect. This is going to illuminate the great divide. Most Americans, if they were paying attention, if you watch the whole thing, you have to watch the whole thing. Don't just rely on one or two clips where JD goes at Zelenskyy and then Trump takes over and the whole thing went off the rails. But I think most Americans saw this and they were thrilled. They were giddy. They were ecstatic that finally someone is demanding peace, demanding an end to this stupid war, as Trump called it. And for some reason, we're not quite sure. Zelenskyy just didn't want to just close the deal. That's all he had to do. He had to sit there. He had to tell everyone that he's grateful. He had to thank the American people, thank the president, the vice president, get the deal done and be a hero. He made peace. He stopped the dying. Trump has been saying this for 3 years now. I want to stop the dying. And every time he says it, I applaud. I'm encouraged that somebody's talking sense. This war was never going to end with a victory for Zelenskyy and Ukraine and the West and NATO and Europe. It's just not possible. And as I watched the reaction, read all the reactions to this, obviously, Democrats, the media, they were upset, they were insulted, they called it just a horrific moment in history. And they give you this full report and they show you the clips and they talk about it. And they never explain, how does it end well for Ukraine? How does it end well for America? How does it serve America's interest? What is the point of continuing this war? Maybe someone on the chat line could tell me, what good does it do to continue fighting? Ukraine can't win, despite what Chris Murphy or Liz Warren or Seth Moulton says. Ukraine cannot win. It never could win. There was never a scenario. There was never a plan where Ukraine wins the war. And I've had enough of politicians and media people acting as if it's a football game. Yeah, we're going to win. And they never tell you how. How does Ukraine win the war? By marching on to Moscow and dethroning Vladimir Putin? That's not possible. It was never possible. This war never made any sense. And it was they kept fighting because that's what Joe Biden and the Democrats wanted. They just wanted to pour billions and billions into this insane, endless war. Trump comes along and says, we're going to make a deal. They draw it up. They have all the parameters. They're ready to sign it. He flies to D.C. He doesn't put on his jacket and tie because he's a tough guy. because he's a wartime president. And no one, not Zelenskyy, not the media, not Biden people, nobody tells you, how does Ukraine win? How do we win the war? Everybody agrees Putin's a bad guy. Putin attacked. Putin killed lots of Ukrainians. Ukraine killed lots of Russians. Trump just says, let's stop the dying. And somehow Trump's the problem. Trump's the problem. You want to keep fighting and keep killing young Ukrainians, young Russians for what? The Donbass region? Most Americans didn't give a thought, didn't care about Ukraine until 3 years ago, didn't know where it was. The only thing we knew about it was Hunter Biden was getting rich in Ukraine, as was Mitt Romney's kid and Nancy Pelosi's, and lots of people were getting rich. We knew nothing about the Donbass region or any of the border disputes. And for some reason, it became the number one priority to the U.S. It became a huge campaign issue. And it became one of the reasons Trump and Vance won, because they promised to end it. And they almost did. They will. We will get to that point. I don't know how many more Russians and how many more Ukrainians have to die, how many more buildings have to be destroyed. But we're going to get to that point. And when we do, we're going to look back and say, what the hell was the point? Why did we keep this going? Why did we spend $200 billion in Ukraine? Because Putin's a bad guy? The Democrats, once again, are in a box, in a bind. That is the genius of Trump. Everything he does puts the Democrats in an untenable position. They have to defend open borders. They have to defend boys and girls sports. They have to defend this war in Ukraine and explain why you should take your money, they should take your money, your tax money, and spend it on a war that we can't win. We cannot win. It isn't possible. Putin has more nukes than anybody in the world. It doesn't end well. Even if Ukraine somehow, with help from NATO, with help from the US, somehow marched into Moscow, then what? Then we have nuclear war. That's the best case scenario. If you listen to the Democrats, yes, we confront him, they roll into Russia, and then he fires off a nuke. And then what? We say, yeah, we're fighting for democracy. What democracy? They suspended elections. They shut down media outlets. There's no democracy here. It's not one side's democracy, the other side's tyranny. That's nonsense. And everybody knows it. They just want to keep the gravy train rolling. That is all. They just want to keep taking your money and lighting it on fire. And Trump says no. And Trump had a deal. And by all accounts, and we can get to Marco Rubio, who explains this beautifully, they had a deal. They knew it. They were going to sign it. It was all set to go. And Zelenskyy blew it up. Once again, you have to watch the whole thing. It was going fine. It was smooth. Everyone was on the same page. And then Zelenskyy goes at J.D. Vance. Vance fires back. Trump gets pissed. He starts smacking down Zelenskyy. And then he kicks him out of the White House. And I, for one, applaud that. I say good. Because as Trump explains, they need us. We don't need them. Why do we need that? Why do we need him? How can he make any demands? He should have been figuratively on his knees with gratitude, saying, thank you for getting this done. Thank you for stopping the dying, the killing. Thank you for stopping the carnage. Where does he get off saying, we need you? Here's a clip. Get to the Zelenskyy clip over the weekend, because after he left the White House, he went to Europe. Obviously, it's Europe's war, and all the European leaders gathered together to show their support for Ukraine. Good. I have no problem with that. It's more important to you than it is to us. As Zelenskyy said, as Trump says all the time, we got an ocean. We're in no danger, even if you believe the nonsense that Poland's next. And then Western Europe, he's coming after Europe. He's Hitler. Even if you believe that, there's no threat to us, as Trump points out. He's not coming after us. But this little punk over the weekend said that our sons and daughters are going to have to die for Ukraine. Yes, we're going to have to send troops and they will fight and die for the Donbass region. Listen to this.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war. And they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
What? That was over the weekend in Europe. This guy's saying, our sons and daughters will have to die. Why? That is not going to happen. That is not going to happen as long as Trump and Vance are in the White House. That is not going to happen. And he somehow thinks that's going to work. They got to, I mean, I know there's serious talk. There's people in Ukraine who want him out, and that's the path to peace. But it just was amazing watching him sitting there confronting Trump and Vance and somehow making demands. Why? What, as Trump said over and over again, you don't have the cards. What cards does he have? He has the support of Europe. Keir Starmer from the UK is saying they're going to send troops. Good, send troops. But Americans aren't going to fight and die for you. Whoever put that idea in your head, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Susan Rice. Maybe it was Barack. Maybe it was Lindsey Graham. Put that idea in your head. But that's not what we want to hear. I'll tell you what we want to hear. This. I thought this was great. I think this is the time to stop pretending that this little punk wants peace. He knows with peace comes an election. He knows he's out. He knows the money stops flowing if there's a peace deal. But I'm going to guess most Ukrainians, most mothers and fathers in Ukraine are rooting for Trump here, are rooting for a deal, an end to this. And Vance points out that they got problems and that they're drafting young men. We've seen the videos. There's a whole bunch of videos of them grabbing young men off the street and sending them into the meat grinder to die. For what? For what? It's insane. Right now, you have a Democrat Party. You have liberals, far left liberals. Hell, over the weekend, J.D. Vance went to Vermont to go skiing, and he was forced. They took him out of his hotel and put him in an undisclosed location because all the hippies in Vermont, old gray-haired Ben and Jerry types, are pissed at Vance and Trump for the way they treated Zelenskyy. Well, they're trying to settle this. They want to end the war, and Democrats, far left liberals, Bernie Sanders, Ben and Jerry, and all their ilk in Vermont want to continue the endless war. It is an upside down world right now, thanks to Trump. They are fighting to continue the war. Democrats, liberals, hippies are out there in the street with signs and screaming to keep the war going. And Trump and Vance are trying to end it. Here's some of the dispute in the Oval Office on Friday. Go ahead.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment.
You
and
voted
you men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
He's right. He's right about everything. He's right. They're not winning. They can't win. Here was his big chance. And I tell you what, when I first heard about the mineral deal, I said, this is crazy. Like lots of things Trump says, like when he talks about the Panama Canal or Greenland, I say, wow, that's interesting. But that's his best chance for security. A security guarantee will be Americans on the ground mining for minerals, Americans in harm's way, not soldiers, people trying to get the rare earth minerals. That will be a partnership. That will be a guarantee. And he had it. And he agreed to it. And then he changed his tune. I want to play Marco Rubio because he's been great. I'm not always the biggest Little Marco fan, but he's been great so far. And he goes on with Stephanopoulos. Again, I think all Trump people should tell George Stephanopoulos to screw when he calls. But when they go on and they speak like this, I'm encouraged because he lays it out and explains it. The UN should be involved here. Everybody should be working toward peace. Why are people, why are Europeans, why are Democrats, why are they insisting on continuing to fight? It makes you wonder, what do they get? What are they getting out of this? Why? Why does Chris Murphy and Liz Warren, why do these Democrats who historically would be against war, why are they so all in on the fighting and dying? It makes no sense. But listen to Marco explain it to Steffi exactly what's going on. Go ahead.
Let me tell you. All right. So do you know what the United Nations resolution was? I'll tell you if you want to hear what it was. It basically said this has been a horrible war. It's time for it to end. The job of the UN is to bring about peace in the world. I thought that's what the UN was created to do, to stop wars and to prevent them. And that's what the resolution did. Was it antagonistic towards the Russians? No. Back to the point. But it also didn't praise the Russians. All it said is this is a bad war. It needs to end. And by the way, at the Security Council, which has not been widely reported, the first resolution on Ukraine that has passed the Security Council in 3 years, passed this week because of the leadership of President Trump. And it's a resolution that says bad war needs to end. Let's bring the two sides together. That's what the resolution is. Again, what is the United Nations for? Isn't it not a forum to promote peace in the world? And shouldn't we all be happy that we have a president who's trying to stop wars and prevent them instead of start them? And I just don't get it. I really don't, other than the fact that it's Donald J. Trump. If this was a Democrat that was doing this, everyone would be saying, well, he's on his way to the Nobel Peace Prize. This is absurd. We are trying to end a war. You cannot end a war unless both sides come to the table, starting with the Russians. And that is the point the president has made. And we have to do whatever we can to try to bring them to the table to see if it's even possible. I'm not promising you it's possible. I'm not telling you it's 90% likely. I'm saying it's 0% likely if we don't get them to a negotiating table. And the sooner everyone grows up around here and figures out that this is a bad war that's heading in a bad direction with death and destruction and all kinds of dangers surrounding it that could spiral into a broader conflict, the sooner people grow up and realize that, I think the more progress we're going to be able to make. But the president's crystal clear. He campaigned on it and he's going to govern on it. And that is, he is going to be a president that tries to achieve peace. And he has been very clear. This is a war that would have never happened had Donald Trump been in the White House, and it needs to end. And we're going to do everything we can to end it in an enduring and sustainable and fair way.
Yes. Grow up, he says, grow up. That's what I think. Every time you hear a Democrat say he's a Putin puppet, why doesn't he talk that way to Putin? Why doesn't he blast Putin? Trump's trying to make a deal. What's the point of calling Putin a dictator, a tyrant, of saying Putin's evil? What's the point? All he wants to do is make a deal. It doesn't matter what he says about Putin. He needs to make a deal. And our last president had no interest in that. He never spoke to Putin. He never even talked about peace. I know I've mentioned this here a million times, but you never heard Biden or Blinken or Kamala even mention peace. It was all about winning, and they never explained what winning looks like. And there's one thing that I can never get out of my mind, that we gave them somewhere between $200 and $350 billion. Just kept giving. Every time he showed up in D.C., he went home with another $20 billion of our money. For what? For what? And Democrats have two approaches. One is Trump's bad because he doesn't attack Putin, because he won't call Putin a dictator. Well, he's trying to make a deal. The other one is, that money comes back to us because all the munitions companies, all the defense contractors are here, so they spend it here. As to quote J.D. Vance, do you listen to yourself, Margaret? So you want to keep a war going. You want to keep young men dying because defense contractors are making out on the deal? Makes me wonder about your motive. But I always go back to this, and we talked about it at the time. This is Biden, I think 2 years ago, talking about the money we send to Ukraine and what it's for. Obviously, it doesn't all go directly to the war fighters, directly to the effort. obviously lots of people are skimming and scamming and making money from this. Zelenskyy himself said they don't know where $100 billion went. It's unaccounted for. And Democrats don't even want to ask, where's the money going? Who's making out? Who's getting rich? And Biden explained this. I'm not sure he was supposed to. He explained that you, the American taxpayer, are paying not just for the bureaucrats, for the federal workers in Kiev, in Ukraine. You're paying their salaries and their pensions, and you're giving them a little pocket money. Yes, that's where your money's going. This is the ultimate America last moment. This is a man who didn't give a damn about the people suffering in his own country, who didn't give a damn about people getting injured, killed, raped by illegal aliens, crime in inner city, people in Maui or in Western North Carolina, didn't give a damn about them. But he wanted to make sure people in Ukraine, bureaucrats, government workers, had a little pocket money thanks to you. Let's go back. Let's review what this fool said about your money and why it was going to Ukraine. Go ahead.
And to deliver much needed humanitarian assistance as well as food, water, medicine, shelter, and other aid to Ukrainians displaced by Russia's war, and provide aid for those seeking refuge in other countries from Ukraine. It's also going to help schools and hospitals open. It's going to allow pensions and social support to be paid to the Ukrainian people so they have something in their pocket. It's also going to provide critical resources to address food shortages around the globe.
So they have something in their pocket. We're going to pay the pensions of workers in Ukraine, a place no one could find on a map 3 years ago. Nobody gave a thought to it. And your money went to pay the pensions. That ended on November 5th. Thank God. That ended. And it's going to end with a peace deal. It's going to happen. And everyone's going to look back and say, what was the point? Where'd that money go? What did we accomplish? What did we get out of it? That is America last right there. That guy, thank God he's gone. I mean, every day you just wake up and say, thank God they, Biden, Kamala, Blinken, Sullivan, thank God these awful, awful people are gone. Thank God Trump and Vance are in charge now. All right, we got so much to get to on our big day back here in the seat in this chair. I'm excited. I'm telling you, every day. Hell, Joy Reid got fired. I miss that. I miss so much. We miss so much. But hey, we got time. We're here. We're gonna get to all of it. We got to get to the Oscars too. I watched lots of the Oscars, and it is just pathetic. The whole thing, the whole show. They haven't got the memo. Hollywood has not got the memo. DEI is dead. They're still all in on DEI, as we saw last night. They're doing land acknowledgements and talking about Palestine, and it was just the most out of touch people in the world. Which reminds me, when are we getting the Epstein list? Most things we've seen from the Trump administration have been great so far. Not this. Pam Bondi screwed up, promised the Epstein list. We didn't get it. We're still waiting. It makes you wonder, are we ever going to get it? Are the forces, the dark forces out there who want to keep this under wraps, are they so powerful that we will never see the list? I have my doubts. We will get to that and lots more. But first.
Excuse me.
All right. You know what? I mentioned in the first segment, I said there's one continuing theme with the Trump administration 6 weeks in. One thing that is just so glorious. It is just so wonderful to behold. Everything Trump does puts Democrats, puts the media in this difficult position where they have to defend the indefensible. You name it. Again, boys and girls sports, the border, you name it. Ukraine. But to me, nothing has been more enjoyable to watch than the efforts by DOGE, by Elon Musk and his team to root out waste and corruption. And it's long overdue. It's been spectacular to watch. And the best part is watching Democrats, watching the media defend waste and corruption. That's where they're at. Waste and corruption, they own it now. Because what we knew there was waste, corruption, fraud in the federal government. We had no idea the extent of it. And Musk was on with Rogan the other day, and he just said he couldn't believe what he was finding. And you've certainly heard a number of things on the list. Every day, you just sit there and go, wait, we were paying for that? Over the weekend, we found out there are 4.5 million credit cards issued by the federal government to federal workers. There are only 2.5 million federal workers. There are twice as many credit cards out there that are being used by somebody. And every day I said, oh, that's my favorite. The drag shows in Ecuador. I said, oh, the Sesame Street in Iraq. That was $20 million. And the real scandal, obviously, the fact that this stuff is going on is a scandal. Obviously, every decent American is rooting for Musk, is enjoying this. And it put the media in this position where they had to find that random federal worker who's, getting laid off and has a kid with cancer or a pregnant woman, and they would focus on that. You knew that was coming. I laugh at that. Yes, has there been some people who were unfairly fired? Probably. It's going to happen, just like in the private sector. But everybody in the private sector who's been fired, which is most people, look at that and say, welcome to our world. We didn't get 8 months severance. We had to go to work. These are people who are getting laid off who didn't show up in the office for 4 years. So most people, most Americans are applauding this. It's long overdue. We needed this. Just some of the things that I jotted down over the weeks. $1 million to help disabled people in Tajikistan become climate leaders. $450,000 to promote atheism in Nepal. $2.5 million for electric charging stations in Vietnam. Democrats have to defend this. Then you have $47,000 for a trans opera in Colombia. I know you've heard some of these things, but we were doing this. We were paying for this. This USAID was the greatest scam ever. And it's not just a scam because these programs are ridiculous. Promoting atheism in Nepal, that's where your tax money is going. But that's not where the money was going. It doesn't cost $20 million to put on a Sesame Street show in Iraq. Obviously, they're stealing. Most of this money ended up back in D.C. Most of the money to the NGOs ended up back in D.C. to well-connected Democrats. And that's why they want Musk dead. He's exposing not just these wasteful programs. That's one thing. But we know the money's not going to charging stations in Vietnam, at least not all of it. We know it was one big money laundering scheme. We know that. And he's just begun exposing it. And every day he exposes it, he puts Democrats in this impossible position. Oh, and let's not forget, money for the Wuhan lab. $40 million to the Taliban every week. India's first transgender clinic shut down because they stopped getting money from the American taxpayer. You were sending your money to India for a transgender clinic. Okay, Chris Murphy. Okay, Rachel Maddow, Chris Hayes, George Stephanopoulos. Defend that. That's what Trump and Musk have done. They have forced these people to defend these indefensible programs, these wasteful, corrupt programs. There's been a lot to like in the last 6 weeks. That's the best thing. And Trump's big address tomorrow night before the joint session of Congress, here's what the Democrats are. Some of them are boycotting. Chris Murphy said he's not going, which to me just ruins the whole night. I mean, if Chris Murphy's not there, is it even worth holding this speech, doing this speech? But others are promising to bring laid off federal workers as guests. Yes, that's going to be powerful. Some hack in the Commerce Department who's done nothing for the last 4 years is going to show up at the speech. And that's supposed to be a statement to show how cruel Trump's policies are, how cruel. And every time they put these people on camera, I mean, there was that one that went viral, the CNN put on some federal worker who said Musk asking her to list 5 things she did at work was inhumane and cruel. Is there a single person in the private sector who empathizes with her, who says that is cruel? Asking you to list 5 things you did is cruel and inhumane? Keep it up. Keep it up, CNN. Keep it up, MSNBC. That is the best part of the last month or so, watching them defend drag shows in Ecuador and Sesame Street in Iraq. Keep it up. Bring those people who are laid off with severance packages. Bring them to the bring them to the Capitol tomorrow night, because I want to laugh in their faces. I really do. By the way, I gave Ironhead the assignment. Could you list 5 things you did in the last month, Ironhead? 5 things for the show, to help the show in the last month. You have that list. I asked her for 5 things.
Bread lines and collected welfare. I did that. I looked up news stories. I watched SNL 50, which was a letdown.
That's true. That was, but SNL Saturday night was spectacular. I want to get to that because Shane Gillis was so good. He is so good in this role. The biggest blunder in television history was SNL firing Shane Gillis after one day because of some non-woke offensive thing he said. He is such a good character. He's such a good sketch actor and a great stand-up, but he was so good Saturday night. We will get to that, and we will get to the Oscars, and I have to make the case again for Massachusetts, for Boston, as the place that has the single worst elected officials in America. I know that's tough. You got California, you got Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, but I will go against anybody. My mayor, my governor are the worst people, the worst elected officials in the world. We'll tell you about that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
All right, small business owners, listen up. If you're tired of losing money to credit card processing fees, we've got something you need to hear. With 24/7 payments, you can eliminate up to 99% of those fees thanks to their fee elimination program. Here's how it works. You pass the processing fees on to customers who pay with credit cards, and in return, you can offer them a discount for paying with cash or debit. It's a simple, effective, and fully compliant way to save thousands every month. Right now, 24/7 payments is switching over 250 businesses every month to this program, and they can have you set up in less than 24 hours. Call 855-504-0799 today or visit them on the web at 247payments.com. That's the numbers 247payments.com. Are your loved ones aging? Has walking become difficult for your parents, your grandparents? It's tough. I've been there. I know lots of you have been there too. Stairs can often be a challenge for them. It's also a significant risk of falling. Well, Lifeway Mobility, one of the largest providers of accessibility solutions, offers stair lifts, wheelchair ramps, home elevators, transfer aids, and bath safety solutions to improve safety, independence, and quality of life at home. Most of their solutions are made in the USA, and they provide professional installation and service. Gain peace of mind and help loved ones stay safe at home. Schedule a free consultation when you call Lifeway Mobility at 888-780-7923. They have locations across the U.S. with showrooms for you to see and test their products. They're also rated the best stair lift company by the National Council on Aging and by U.S. News, and they have over 6,000 five-star reviews. Call 888-780-7923 or visit lifewaymobility.com for your free consultation. That's 888-780-7923. A big weekend in Boston. We had a shooting at Chick-fil-A on Boylston Street. If you're not familiar, it is a very busy area. I walk by here all the time. I never go in because it's too busy. Chick-fil-A is obviously a great little fast food place, and It was a long battle to get Chick-fil-A in Boston. I believe 2 mayors ago, the mayor of I don't know how many years ago tried to stop Chick-fil-A because the owner is a Christian. So he failed. Chick-fil-A came to Boston, and it's extremely popular. I mean, line out the door. 5:30 on Saturday afternoon, a knife-wielding maniac chased 2 people into this Chick-fil-A. And I can't imagine the scene, the chaos, because I'm telling you, it was packed. And fortunately for the people who were being chased and everybody in the restaurant, an off-duty cop happened to be in there getting some food. He pulled out his weapon and he neutralized the threat, shot the knife-wielding maniac and killed him. Now, you'd say that's a day, that's a time to celebrate this hero off-duty officer and anybody else who assisted him, and say, thank God no one else was hurt. Well, that's not how it works in Boston, because we have the worst mayor, the most woke mayor. We have a mayor who looks like she's 14 years old and talks like she's in the faculty lounge at Brandeis or at BU. And she shows up at the scene and gives a statement, and it went viral because she didn't offer prayers. You'd never do that if you're a good liberal, but you offer thoughts. Did she offer thoughts to the heroic cop or the people who were chased or the patrons in the restaurant who were terrorized by a knife-wielding maniac? No, she offered thoughts to the maniac. Yes, that's how it works. If you're a good, woke liberal, you offer thoughts to the criminal. Your heart bleeds for the criminal. Here she is, our teen mayor, Mayor Wu.
My condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the individual whose life has been lost.
What? That's amazing. That to me tells you so much. This is how liberals, particularly Northeast liberals, New England liberals, that's how they think. Their mind that's their instinct. This was not planned or thought out. Their instinct is to sympathize with the criminals. That's how it works in these cities. The poor criminal, the poor knife-wielding maniac. And we don't know much yet. We know the officer has not been identified. The victim has not been identified. But if the shooter is a cop or a white guy or both, the go-to response from a liberal like Michelle Wu is, oh, the poor victim. Thoughts to the victim and his family. What about the heroic cop? And to make matters worse, the police commissioner, Michael Cox, who recently vowed to not cooperate with Tom Homan's guys, not help them round up violent illegal alien criminals. Yeah, the guy Homan dressed down, told him to take his badge off because he's not a cop. That guy did the same thing. He said thoughts to the victim, thoughts to the knife-wielding maniac. Yes, the police commissioner his first instinct was, thank God for one of our guys was there to save lives. It was the poor knife-wielding maniac. That's how they think. It is not, things are better around the country. Obviously, DEI is dead. We're getting men out of women's sports. Not in New England. Nope. In Maine, the governor is fighting. Democrats are fighting to not only keep boys and girls sports, boys and girls locker rooms. They stopped a Republican legislator from speaking. They censured her and said she can no longer speak in defense of girls, in defense of women, because she posted a picture of the boy who won the state pole vault championship beating a girl. So he stole a state title. And all the Democrats, including the governor, who has gone to war with the president, that's the hill they're going to die on. They're going to fight for the right of boys to walk around naked in the girls' locker room and steal state titles. That's in Maine. In Massachusetts, our governor sat down with the New York Times, and she made it clear that she's not She's obviously going to continue to fight to keep boys and girls sports. Again, it is just breathtaking to watch what these people will defend, what they will fight for. You would think a lesbian woman governor, Democrat, hard left governor, would fight for women, would care about women. Well, we got problems in Massachusetts. One of them is women and girls keep getting raped by illegal aliens. And they're here, they come here because of this woman. Doesn't care about the victims, never talks about the victims. She cares about the perpetrators. And she's made it clear that she's going to fight Trump on this DEI thing. She explains to the New York Times that DEI is good for business. Now, let's play this, and then we will analyze. Go ahead.
Talk to any CEO, major, Fortune 500 company. They'll tell you that their bottom line, dollar-wise, does better when there's more diversity in the room.
But many of these...
That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's made us stronger.
Many of these companies, though, are ditching their DEI programs.
And I don't know why.
I don't know why. The New York Times is pushing back on this crazy lady, saying, people are eliminating DEI, which is racist, sexist. It's institutional racism. Say, we're only going to hire and promote based on race. Everything this woman does, in fact, everything she and Mayor Wu do is based on race and sex. White people aren't welcome in City Hall. I've been there. It is DEI run amok. Mayor Wu doesn't hire white people, especially white men. And the follow-up to this from the New York Times lady should have been, okay, you think it's good for the bottom line, good for business to make all hiring and promoting based on race? Can you explain to me how that works? Can you just, take a minute? How does that work? You think it's good for business, good for your bottom line to hire and promote minorities and LGBTQ people. And that's good for business. How? To discriminate against white people and Asian people in many cases. How does that help your bottom line? How is that good for business? Just give us a minute. Explain it. They didn't ask that because they can't ask that because she can't answer that because there is no answer to that. There is no reason DEI is good for business, as we're finding out across the country as people eliminate DEI because it's racist. It's illegal to hire based on race, but they're going to keep doing it here in New England. You can be sure. Here in Massachusetts, we will continue to have racist, sexist policies. It's embedded in this state. And you have people like this who don't give a damn about women and girls. They want boys to beat up on the girls in sports. They want illegal aliens to prey on girls here in their state. We have people who used to consider themselves feminists, who are doing everything they can to make more female victims, and they just don't care. They don't even see it. It's an amazing thing. We have the worst. We have the worst elected officials in the world. All right, we got much to get to. I got to get to the Oscars. I don't know why I watch. I hate watch. You know what? Why I watch Saturday Night Live. I mean, people make fun of me. They mock me because when I watch it, I've been watching it my whole life. I used to love it. Not that long ago, I used to laugh. And it went woke, and it sucks for the most part now. But for the first time in years, I sat there Saturday night and laughed my ass off. And I was laughing with Shane Gillis and at the people, Lorne Michaels and the people on this show who fired this man a few years ago. He is perfect. This is exactly what they need. If they had not fired him, he would have saved the franchise. And I'm not exaggerating. He would have been a Phil Hartman, Eddie Murphy, Chris Farley, Adam Sandler type legend as an actor and a comedian on that show. He would have been the star. He would have been the reason people tuned in. But they fired him because he wasn't woke and PC. And he went on to become a superstar, too late now. I mean, I joked that they should just hire him now, pay him whatever he wants, but he's doing too well. He's a superstar stand-up and got a great, successful podcast and show on Netflix. So it's too late now, but they bring him back after firing him as just a lowly cast member. They bring him back as a host, and he just killed it. His monologue was great, but the sketches were even better. He's so good at this. He's got the deadpan expression. He's like Phil Hartman in that regard. Just whatever role he plays, he's great. And the skit, Corey is right. The skit, a couple of beers sketch, where he's a guy struggling and with depression, and his doctor's prescribed a couple of beers, and he starts drinking, and he's a whole new guy. And then it was making him tired, so the doctor prescribed a bump, so he started doing coke. It was a great sketch. In fact, 3 or 4 sketches he was in, and I swear he must have written them all because they all sounded like him, were great. This was the first time I watched the whole thing right to the end. The musical guest sucked. And the news weekend update, it was terrible, but he was great. Here's a little bit of his monologue.
I don't know. I'll miss Biden. Biden was fun. Also hilarious. My favorite thing about Biden was anytime he was giving his speech, in between teleprompters, his face would go back to being dead. You remember that? He'd be out there like, ah! I'm serious. Look, I get it. You guys are pretty liberal here.
He did the joke about his girlfriend sleeping with a black guy that was so wonderfully uncomfortable.
I have one of those on it.
It was one of those moments where it wasn't hilarious. It was just uncomfortable, and you could feel it in the room, which is what I was hoping for, because he holds the cards now. He's the guy, and they know it. And Lorne Michaels or whoever had to be sitting in the room saying, "What were we thinking? This guy is just what we need." He makes people uncomfortable, which used to be, part of the deal in SNL. You want to be funny, but you want to be edgy. And he's so edgy. And he'll probably be back as host, but that, the horse has left the barn. He's never going to be a cast member. They fired him and kept all those, the gay Asian guy. They have a skit. They open up the sketch. It was terrible with Zelenskyy and Trump. The Trump guy's good, but they had a Zelenskyy, and then they had Mike Myers play Musk, which was whatever. And the J.D. Vance is the little Asian guy, and he's terrible. All the cast members, all the comedians out there, and you think that's J.D. Vance? Well, you better keep looking, because he's going to be president for 8 years. He's going to be around. If you want to mock J.D. Vance, you got to come up with a better character. We don't have time to play all the sketches, but I highly recommend go to snl.com or wherever and watch a couple of beers. And then they have a newscast where there's 2 black hosts, anchors, and 2 white, and they're reporting on crime, and it becomes a competition on who's committing the most crimes, the white guys or the black guys.
It was so funny.
It was just, and that's him, man. It's funny and edgy and uncomfortable. I can't tell you, they blew it, man. That is the greatest blunder in TV history. He's so good. And again, he'll be back, but he was just so good. You got to watch it. I make fun of SNL all the time, but it was so good. All right, let's get to the Oscars. I'm telling you, they didn't get the memo. It was, I guess it could have been more political. Like Mark Hamill comes out. Talk about a guy just one note, guy was in a movie 50 years ago, and he's big enough to present an Oscar. I expected him to come out and just go after Trump. He didn't. And there was a little bit, Conan O'Brien took 1 or 2 little shots at Trump, but it wasn't a Trump hate fest like I thought it would be. There was a lot of, free Palestine garbage. And there was, Adrian Brody did a speech and talked about we need more inclusion nonsense. Oh, it opened with a land acknowledgement for the Tonga tribe. They were on Tonga tribe land, which was hysterical. But the movies, and I got to admit, I haven't seen them. No one's seen any of these movies. The winner, Anora, grossed $16 million at the box office. $16 million. And it was the best picture, which was good because it was going against the movie about the transgender drug lord, which was nominated 13 times. What's the name of this stupid movie?
Amelia Perez.
Amelia Perez, yes. Amelia Perez was nominated. It's the second most nominations ever. More nominations than Godfather.
16 times, wasn't it?
What was it?
Is it 16 times or 13?
I think it's 13 times. It won Best Supporting Actress Zoe Saldana, who got up there and just cried. And from Amelia Perez, she was good in Lioness, by the way. Lioness and Taylor Sheridan Show is excellent. She's the star, and she's good in that, but she's in everything, and she won. She'll be around for a while. And so this movie was on its way to win, and then we found out the transgender star, had all kinds of tweets in her past about George Floyd and other things. So she got canceled, and it didn't win. Honora won. I guess that's good. I'll see it. I've seen reviews. People don't love it. And I was going to watch The Brutalist, but then I read some reviews. Matt Walsh did an incredible review and just said it's the worst movie ever. And a movie that's 3.5 hours long really has to be good. And apparently it's not. But this movie, Amelia Perez, was nominated again, more than just about any movie ever. And it's historically, laughably bad. Have I seen it? No, because it's so bad, I'm not going to see it. This is a clip, an actual song. It's a musical, again, about a drug lord who has a sex change operation. Oh, haven't they heard? This is passé. This is not where America is at anymore. But check out this and tell me this isn't the worst musical number, the worst scene, the worst thing in Hollywood history. Go ahead.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation.
I see. Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina. Is it for you?
For me.
How are we done with SNL?
What would you like to know about it, madam?
I want to know it all. What is the protocol, the techniques and the risks? How many operations? How much time do you need?
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Yes.
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Yes.
Control laryngoplasty.
What is that?
Adam's apple reduction.
Oh,
Yes.
that is an actual scene from an actual movie that was nominated 13 times. That woman won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Men to women, women to men, gynoplasty.
Terrible.
Can you imagine paying, even pay-per-view, paying whatever, $6 to watch that?
No, imagine dedicating 2 hours of your life to watching that, or however long it was.
And the Academy saw that and said, yes, that's the best movie of the year. We have lost our way. I looked this up. I tweeted this out. The Best Picture, I mean, obviously the Oscars has been woke. It's obviously Hollywood is liberal and all. But usually there's some good movies that get nominated, like really good movies. I looked this up from 91 to 95. Here are your Best Picture winners. Silence of the Lambs, Unforgiven, Schindler's List, Forrest Gump, Braveheart. That's a 5-year run. And there's like 3 of the top 10 movies ever on that list. They're all great. I mean, you'd all watch them and say, that is a great movie. Now they nominate that, a movie with a song about penis to vagina. Oh, it was hysterical. And you know what? I was wondering, I saw the movie Reagan over the break. It's great. It's very well done. Dennis Quaid pulls it off. He plays Reagan, and it's a big, sweeping, epic story over his whole life. And it wasn't nominated, and I figured, yeah, of course it's not nominated because it's Reagan. It was not eligible because it's not PC. They don't have enough DEI. They literally have it in the rules. The rules that you have to hit. Here's the rule to win Best Picture. Nominees must hit at least 2 of 4 diversity criteria, including involving their cast and having some members of a typically unrepresented group in production and assist in marketing or paid internship. Reagan did not meet any of the requirements. There were 116 films that were eliminated from consideration because they didn't have enough DEI in the cast or crew. So it's in the rules. And a great movie. And Reagan wasn't great, but it was good. It was damn good. Wasn't eligible. Lots of movies weren't eligible because they didn't have transgender drug lords singing and dancing about sex changes. That was your Academy Awards last night. That's what you missed if you didn't watch the Oscars. You missed. They didn't play that song. They should have done that. They should have had that song. But all right, what do we got? We got to go. We got to go. I was going to get to Garth Brooks is begging people to donate money to Ukraine. You start, Garth. You start. Haven't we donated enough money to Ukraine? We have to. He wants people to send checks to Ukraine. God, they've just lost their way. They've just lost their way. It is hilarious. All right, that will do it for today. Thanks for all the well wishes and the welcome back. It's good to be back. And we're not going anywhere now. We're not going to miss any more of this wonderful time in America. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Show. And we will do it again tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God. Is she crazy?
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, too many thank yous.